Hi, this is Bill Conrad from RedmoveNevada.com, and this month we have, for our guest speakers, we have Megan Barth and Jody Gilbert. Of course, Joey came in second for the race for governor. He's a tenacious attorney and a former great boxer, and he'll be a wonderful speaker. And we have Megan Barth. Megan Barth has been on numerous shows and is a writer in different periodicals and newspapers. She's been on Trump rallies, as well as Fox, CNN, and other business and news networks. So without further ado, let's get into this episode, and we'll see you Saturday, October the 15th at the Reno Town Hall Mall. We're going to have coffees and pastries, but you can also buy breakfast if you'd like. So Megan, welcome to the Red Moves Timeline podcast and the pre-show before we get together on the 15th. You're one of our keynote speakers with Jim Marchant on the 15th of next month, which is October. Saturday is Town Hall Mall. Should be a great time. I think 9:00 it's starting. We'll have that timeline up this next weekend. But thank you for volunteering to come up in the political rough time. Megan is the editor of the Nevada Globe, which is one of the newer papers here, digital paper. It's really a big company in several states. So you can tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little about yourself and what you're going to talk about.
Sure. Well, the Nevada Globe was founded back on October 4th of last year. And it was founded by a group that holds a whole family of products. However, two of their products are the California Globe and the New Jersey Globe. And those focus specifically on state politics and policy throughout those respective states. So when the publishers were looking to brand out and launch a new news website, they chose Nevada out of all the other states in order to launch. And I have worked with the editor of the California Globe for probably over a decade, Katie Grimes. And so when she was asked if she knew anybody in Nevada, my name came up and we launched the Globe together October 4th.
Now, a little more detail about yourself. Now, you grew up back east, but you came to California to start young, right out of school, and you ended up here in Reno. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you got here, and what you've done.
Sure. I went to school and studied and grew up in a small town, now much larger, but a small town outside of Chicago. After it was 84 below zero, I decided to move west and found California, Southern California. And I started working in the medical and pharmaceutical industry right out of school. And that kind of developed into a 20 plus year career in medical device development, design, and manufacturing, as well as pharmaceutical combination device design and manufacturing. So I got I thought I was going to be in that industry forever. You know, the unfortunate part of that industry, of course, is everyone gets older and gets sick. And so you have a very stable job. However, when Obamacare really started to come to the forefront after the 2008 election, I realized quite quickly that politics was going to play a significant role in my life, in that Obamacare was designed really to not only have government control over people's decisions of their healthcare the lives and their healthcare decisions, but Obamacare was really to control through excessive taxation and fees on pharmaceutical and medical device companies and limit their ability to innovate. And so I really took an active role in being an outspoken critic of Obamacare. And that led me kind of into a political activism arena in so much that it developed quite quickly. My political prowess really was fine-tuned during that time. And my activism was such that it led me to have rallies against Obamacare to the tunes of thousands of people. And this is in, liberal California. We would have thousands of people turn up in LA. We had 3,000 people turn up in Clark County at a rally. And it kind of put me on the path of becoming more not only politically active and politically aware, but doing a lot more research into policy. And so that kind of launched my career into politics. I was asked to run for mayor of Irvine. I declined. I wanted to really just cover politics and hold politicians accountable. I was a Reagan baby. I was always called a Reagan baby. I was always taught to trust but verify. And through my research, that was a way that I could verify. And that led into a career of journalism. I started writing, and I've written just a ton for a variety of of magazines and newspapers. My name often appears on articles. Sometimes I was ghostwriting. Sometimes I was just doing investigative research. Some of my research has been made into movies. Some of my research has been published into, publications. And so when the Nevada Globe approached me in October, I had just gotten off an assignment and thought, well, I've never been an editor, but I used to edit in college for some extra money as an English major. And
Wow.
Why not? So this role as editor is new, as well as the Nevada Globe. But we wanted the Nevada Globe. The publishers realized that there was definitely a vacuum that existed in Nevada from a political coverage standpoint. We have limited amount of newspapers here, if you will, or digital online media. And that media is just basically a microcosm of what we see on the macro level, on the national level, where the headline is everything. They have loaded headlines like they have loaded questions, which try to manipulate the perception of the reader in order to believe something before they really get into the article. So as the old saying goes, you give voice to the voiceless. We really wanted to give fair coverage to not only to the Republican Party, but to politics in general, and really report on exactly what's going on both sides of the aisle in order to educate our readers into this policy happened, this is the effect, this is what's being talked about, this is what may happen. So I think we do a really good job at that. And I think we've done a really good job at that because our numbers continue to grow every single month. And we're being targeted by organizations and they're trying to actually deplatform us or censor us. So I know if we're getting flack, as they say in the military, we're over the target.
Well, that's good. And so going back, when did you move from, was it Irvine to either Las Vegas or Incline?
Yeah. So I had a kind of a consistent gig on NewsMax at the time, and that was about 7 years ago. And California was in a continuum of rolling blackouts. And one of the blackouts was going to impact my TV hit. My power went out. My hit was like within an hour. And I was just beyond frustrated. And this was, I don't know, probably the fourth or fifth blackout that month. Then after the blackout, the electricity came back on. I had like 10 minutes before my hit. I opened the Sacramento Bee in order to check the latest news. And the headline was, bill in the California legislature stalls to allow illegal aliens to vote in elections. And at that point, I just threw my hands up and I said, you know what? The more money I make, the more money they take. Now they want to take my voice and replace it with a non-citizen's voice. And that is the purest form of voter suppression. So I literally made a decision on that Tuesday to flee California. The following Saturday, I bought a house sight unseen in Las Vegas. 2 weeks later, I sold my house in Irvine, and the rest is history. I consider myself a California refugee.
So what year was that?
15. I think it was
15. And that's a good time. That was a good time to buy a house here. And probably
it really was.
You'd had some recovery in Orange County. Orange County is always an expensive place.
Yeah.
Especially Irvine. Little story, before 9/11, I did 9 years of active duty. I got out, stayed in the reserves. I had two homes outside of El Toro and now Lake Forest. Yeah. I wish I kept those. I'd be like super rich right now, but I made good money on those homes. I sold those to start a design build construction when I got out, went back to school, have all my licenses in California. And then I had a $2 million company. I paid it down to about $400,000 and 9/11 hit. And it was a struggle in California. I had 8 people and I know exactly how you feel. In fact, I built 2 small subdivisions up in Northern California. I built 5 custom homes up in the foothills. I had some commercial projects. I did one in Santa Ana. I did a redevelopment project there. So I know Santa Ana well. Mm-hmm. And it's a struggle there. I got tickets every time I go to LA to the building department. I get a parking ticket, because you'd be in there for all day.
And that's the unfortunate thing. That California has, I believe it's the tagline or nickname, the Golden State, and I've literally renamed it the Beholden State, because the citizens are beholden to the state. And the more money they make, the more money they take. But there really isn't a true return on investment. If you drive down the freeways of California, they're either constantly under construction or there's potholes, and there's just massive congestion. And so I always kind of laugh when I hear Governor Newsom talk about sustainability, when there really is no sustainable government action that creates sustainability. If he wants to talk about it from an environmental standpoint, we can challenge that point all day long. But from a people standpoint, with an open border like we have now, we only have so many resources here. We only have so much money here to allow this unmitigated, uncontrolled immigration at our southern border is really, we've already seen some of the effects of it. However, with over 2 million people now entering our interior, we are going to have, there will be no option really to not raise taxes on the very people that are struggling already, because all of these new people that have flooded into our country are going to be using our schools, they are going to be using our hospitals, they are going to be using our welfare system, they are going to be using our roads. And so, the sustainability canard that the left always talks about is certainly not based in their actions when it comes to the southern border.
I definitely, in fact, we can transition to the issues, because that's one of the issues in this next campaign. I would like to do a whole part on California, what you know about California, what you think the future is, because I escaped California because I was activated for the war and my wife stayed there. But when I came back after going back on active duty and finishing up, my wife shut down our construction company and then kept the real estate company. But I decided to finish my active duty. And while I was on active duty, 2 of my projects, and they're in Santa Ana, I got sued. I said, wow, how am I getting sued from ADA? How am I getting sued? So while I'm in Afghanistan, I'm getting sued by one who was an undocumented illegal and the attorney was up in LA, and he had 3,000 lawsuits, all ADA. And it was about striping of a parking lot. And then the second one was that one of the buildings we built, they decided to modify it out. I didn't do it. It was after we did the rehab, and I still got named. They both cost me a small fortune. Here I come back from Afghanistan and welcome home. I said, I'm leaving this state. I'm out of here. I'm not going to restart. I had a $2 million company, 8 people employed full time. I'm done. I'll go to Nevada and raise my kids.
Well, and I think that's been obviously the sentiment of many people, that we have seen this massive migration from blue states to red states. And it's really financially driven when you think about it, and sometimes educationally driven. But, money moves. Money is a dynamic currency, and people will take their money somewhere else. Yeah. And so no matter how much taxes that the Democrats believe they need to raise in order to benefit their spending, those people that are responsible for the taxes, if they keep getting punished by increasing taxes and fees, ultimately you're going to basically bite the hand that is feeding you. And we've seen this in New York. We've seen this in California. We've seen this in Illinois is another good example. And people are fleeing to red states like Florida. Nevada is purple. I thought I was moving to a red state, but that was when I got here, it was all Republicans. Well, and I'll add to that. I will add to that is that in 2015, when I did move, that was the largest tax increase that the state has ever levied on their citizens. And that was done by Republicans.
Yeah, and then the next cycle, we lost the Assembly, Senate, and the governor's race. And I talked to Republicans afterward, and they said, I just didn't come out and vote. So I guestimated 10% of the Republicans just didn't vote or voted independent. And they didn't vote for Democrats.
There was one race, and I don't recall off the top of my head, but there was literally only a 60% turnout of Republicans.
Yeah, it was probably northern part of the state, I'm guessing. Maybe.
Yeah, I just don't recall off the top of my head.
Really interesting. The Republicans made huge mistakes here in Nevada. The leadership, the elected leadership has made a lot of those mistakes. So yeah, we could talk about that. We'll bring you back on. So that leads me into, what do you think about this next election? What are the main issues that the Republicans are running on? And don't tell us what you think the outcome is going to be. And I'll tell you, they can go to Nevada Globe, because I just saw you had a piece on polling yesterday, but we'll talk about that on the 15th more. But what do you think the issues are here in the state, and what you can sort of give us a hint what you think the chances are, and what could go bad, what could go right?
Well, I think, in the words of James Carville, it's the economy stupid. And that still rings true today. That, he coined that phrase back in the time of Clinton. And so, it still remains the economy stupid. And especially in this economy, we are witnessing skyrocketing inflation in Nevada, specifically here. The inflation rate just reached 15.6%. And that is costing each and every hardworking Nevadan over $10,000 a year in the invisible tax. Now, to put that into perspective, housing costs are also rising. The average apartment in Las Vegas for only 893 square feet is $1,600. Well, when you're paying over $1,000 in extra tax, you're eating up. Affordable housing doesn't become affordable any longer. So the economy and inflation and jobs are the first, second, and third issue. So Republicans have really been hammering the Democrats on the economy, on inflation. And like I said, in Nevada here, we are one of the worst states as far as having the highest inflation rate. All of our costs are going up. Honestly, this morning, I just received an email from NV Energy that my energy costs will be again increasing by another average 10%. Maybe higher, depending on the location, I guess, I'm in or my usage. And so we're seeing, the price at the grocery stores, rental prices, house prices, gas prices, everything that you can think of is pinching the pocketbooks of voters, and voters vote with their pocketbooks. So the Democrats are basically backed into a corner because all of our Nevada Democrats have been ardent supporters of Biden, and most, if not all, have voted with Biden 100% of the time. And due to Biden's unpopularity in Nevada, he has double-digit negatives. I think he is, in some polls, he's up to 70% as far as people don't favor Biden, even 60%. That is a drag. His underwater polling is a drag on Democrats. And so this is what has caused the Cook Political Report, as well as other polling outlets, to designate 3 House districts in Nevada as toss-ups, and also designate the Senate race as toss-ups. And this is why Nevada is considered the epicenter of the midterms. We have the ability to flip, the Republicans have the ability to flip 3 House seats and take control of the Senate should Adam Laxalt prevail over Catherine Cortez Masto. Now, yesterday you had mentioned, you had saw a report I had done that was in the midst of 5 polls that came out yesterday and showed Adam Laxalt with leads as high as 4 points outside the margin of error of polling. And that was done by the Trafalgar Group. Yep. Other polls have come out from big data polls from Emerson that show Adam Laxalt within 2 points, with a 2-point lead or a 1-point lead. But these polls are indicative that Adam Laxalt is gaining ground and Catherine Cortez Masto is losing ground as the inflation rate keeps rising. Catherine Masto and other Democrats throughout the state keep losing.
Yep. How about the governor's race?
The governor's race is the same way. I mean, this is a very interesting environment. And I think that's why the Nevada Globe has done so well, because all of these races truly are being nationally watched. They're nearly like national elections. Our governor's race, Steve Sisolak can't get over 50% approval. That's not good for an incumbent. It's the same with Catherine Cortez Masto. She cannot reach 50%. Both of these candidates, both Sisolak and Masto, have spent tens of millions of dollars to try to brand themselves as the champions of the middle class or what have you, or use that money to attack their opponents, and their numbers haven't moved. Conversely, Joe Lombardo, the GOP nominee for governor, his numbers have been trending up. And so when you look at the polling that Trafalgar has done or Emerson has done, again, he's much like trending with Laxalt and other Republican candidates. So I believe it was, I don't remember which poll, but a dead heat. It was the Emerson poll. There is a dead heat in the governor's race between Joe Lombardo and Steve Sisolak.
That's interesting. I think Steve Sisolak's advertising is not that good this cycle. He doesn't look good. It's like he just doesn't look good compared to Lombardo. Lombardo looks good on the advertising face to face. Just
Yeah, I often report on all of the ads. I have one up today where Colonel Mark Robertson, who's running against Dina Titus, has actually had sent her a cease and desist letter due to the deception and the lies. And that's Mark Robertson's words in those ads. So we'll see what happens with that. But, desperate times call for desperate measures. And what we see in politics all the time are political attacks that are more based on fear than fact. And so both sides are using, tactics, but hopefully those tactics can be corroborated and substantiated with what I would call receipts, facts.
That's very good. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting election. What do you think about the primaries, and have the Republicans pulled together after the primaries this cycle? Because they were big. There were like 9 people running for governor. We ran the debates for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, we've seen a lot of unity amongst the Republican Party, specifically after the primary. I had some issues with the primary in general, as far as, we had to wait 3 hours after the polls, quote unquote, closed, due to the fact that there were polling locations that simply didn't have enough equipment to handle, enough resources to handle the amount of people showing up in person. Now, to stand in line for 3 hours, the Democrats always tell Republicans, well, that's a form of voter suppression. Well, we actually then had voter suppression during the primary. Joey Gilbert was one of the gubernatorial candidates who has continually filed lawsuits against the state, as well as Governor Lombardo, claiming that he had received more votes or had votes taken away from him. He hasn't rather found a judge that has granted him a hearing. But that's the only kind of, I would say, outlier as far as that might be inhibiting some of the unity that Democrats always have. So when Democrats lose, they'll get behind the other Democrat, or there will always be this cohesive front that Democrats put on. I mean, you even have moderate Democrats like Joe Manchin that just supported the $740 billion, quote unquote, Inflation Reduction Act. Yeah. So the Republican Party could learn a few tricks and tips from the Democrats in that respect. And hopefully, we still have a month away from early voting. There will be a little bit more unity, and it would really be helpful if Joey Gilbert would get behind Lombardo, because he brings a substantial active base with him that could actually determine who runs the state of Nevada. Because if we're within 1% or 2%, which historically Nevada is, we're a swing state, and it always seems that whoever wins only wins by 1%, 2 or 3 points. Those supporters in Clark and Northern Nevada the Gilbert supporters could certainly make the difference in a tight race.
Yeah, it's a tight race. I've seen most of the candidates for governor actually come in behind Joe Lombardo. Joey Gilbert's sort of out there. This is what he's new to politics, I think. Here, it's the first time he ran, but he did pretty well. He got close to 25% of the vote.
Yeah, he didn't do bad, for his campaign and not being known at all in Clark County. He actually had some pretty good turnout in Clark County.
Yep. I saw Guy Norrie speaking.
Yeah, Guy Nora.
Guys, I'd say is wrong. I saw Nora. Yeah. Nora. Anyway, he was really supporting the Lombardo, and he was sort of new to this environment. He came from California also in the medical field. You might know him.
Yes. Well, I interviewed Guy Nora. You can find that interview on the Nevada Globe. We actually had an interview at the diner, and I learned a great deal from him. And he's a problem solver. He's a venture capitalist. He's used to turning failing businesses around, and he was bringing that type of philosophy to Nevada. And he basically said very early on that he'd be willing to work with anybody if he wasn't the nominee in order to straighten out Nevada. So with that, getting another call with that, he has thrown his support behind Lombardo. And I believe if his words hold true and there's opportunity when Lombardo wins, he would love to serve for the governor on a certain commission or task force in order to turn a variety of issues that Nevadans facing around, specifically education. Nevada is the 50th in the country when it comes to education. We are at the bottom of testing scores. We are at the top of illiteracy rates. And so there really is a lot of work that the next governor could do.
So, I could see that too. Yeah. I would say there's a difference though. When you talk about school, that's another issue we could talk about in detail. I brought my girls here. They went to Reno High School, did very well there. And there's some good programs here in Northern Nevada. I think it's got to be because I think we have pretty good high schools, at least up here for the most part. It seems like Las Vegas must have more of a challenge.
Well, Clark County is the 5th largest school district in the country. And so there is a lot of talk, and even the Chamber of Commerce came out in support of breaking up that district. Yeah. And so, there's a lot of proposed solutions in order to increase test scores and increase, education rates and graduation rates. But you're dealing with a very powerful teachers union and very powerful special interests that support the status quo. And so it's going to take a lot of effort in order to overcome those challenges.
Well, Megan, if they want to hear more, they're going to have to come on the 15th of October.
Yes.
You're Jim Marchant, and you can talk about those. Jim was actually, running for Secretary of State for Nevada. Interesting campaign. That's another thing we didn't even touch about is the voting system. I'm concerned. Well, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. The mail-in, all-mail voting system, all the permanent absentees, or I guess they're non-solicited absentees, where everybody gets them. They're all over the place. That's scary to me. That's how you get fraud.
Well, I'll say 3 words: chain of custody. Mm-hmm. Once chain of custody is broken, trust is broken. And when you have, and I've written about this extensively prior to the Globe, I was actually known for speaking out against the Republican Secretary of State. When you have dirty voter rolls, you have dirty elections. And until there is a leader that can inspire confidence in not only the voting system, but what happens behind the scenes, all the registration, all the rolls, et cetera, there will be a continued distrust of the system. And distrust in the system is another aspect of voter suppression.
Yeah, and it starts with the system. For me, I still think you should vote on one day. It's precious. Absentee ballots should be by request every year, so you recertify them. And it's not that it's not making it easy. It's just you get the people involved who you don't just get these ballots scattered everywhere. They're under control. Even the absentees.
And that comes to a chain of custody issue, right? Yeah. So when there is absolutely, and Nevada is very unique. Under the guise of COVID, without a single Republican vote, the Democrats changed the entire voting system by basically legalizing ballot harvesting, which was just a felony the year prior. And our ballot harvesting is much different than Colorado's ballot harvesting or even California's ballot harvesting. In California and Colorado, they have limits on the number of ballots that one can collect, harvest, and turn in. In Nevada, it's unlimited. So you could literally walk in with like a moving truck if you wanted and just stack your truck with ballots and then drop them off at the nearest, unmanned box. And so, like I said, chain of custody is extraordinarily important. When you have mail-in balloting based on rolls that may or may not be dirty, no one can prove to me that they're clean, then that, of course, is more distrust. And unlimited ballot harvesting, that's another challenge.
So all they have to do is, first of all, I talked to one of the managers of the registration companies registering voters. What I did, I just moved. We're downsizing because of the economy, and our kids are out of the house now. So I said, well, I'm going to go, and I used a voter registration guy, and he happened to be the manager, regional manager. We sat down actually at a table, had coffee, and he didn't know who I was. And just talking to him, and he's telling me about all the people that are registering down on 4th Street with his team, and just tons of people. So I can just see somebody coming into 4th Street, which is where the homeless shelter is, and Catholic Charities is there.
Which is not Catholic, by the way. It has nothing to do with Catholicism. So, absolutely nothing.
Yep. And they, I can just see somebody coming in there with little sheets of paper, handing them out, say, vote this way because this is how you should vote, cleaning them up and throwing them in the mailbox.
Sure.
I could just see that happening. And that probably did happen last week, just thousands.
Well, and again, in your concerns, and I cannot overstate this enough, your distrust in the election is voter suppression. The only way you can mitigate those concerns or alleviate those concerns is with an open and transparent system, which comes down to the voter rolls.
Yeah. And the voter rolls, and then also they're talking about Marchant. We'll let Marchant talk about this, the concept of counting in the precincts, doing it by paper.
Correct.
instead of electronic. And there's so many.
And this is stuff that we've done before. Coming from my background as a medical representative that worked on the design, build, and manufacturing of medical devices, we would continually test our process. If there was a change in that process, we had to revalidate the process. All of these changes within our election system, specifically in Nevada, have never been validated. And that is cause for concern.
Yeah, I mean, we were under emergency conditions that
Right.
They should be dropped by now. I guess they're not. But anyway, we go more into that. Hopefully, Marchant and you we'll touch a little bit about that, the voter integrity issues, because those are huge issues. I don't know if they're as big for getting votes as people might think, but they still are big issues in the system. So Megan, one last question. You spend most of your time down in Las Vegas. When I go down there, where's the best places to eat? Where should I eat? Where should I go?
Oh my gosh. So there are so many good spots in Las Vegas to eat. People don't understand that Las Vegas is more than the Strip. And I'm a huge supporter of small businesses. They are the engine of our economy. And especially after the pandemic, we need to support small businesses and continue to support them because they are still struggling. So one of my favorite places in Las Vegas is off the Strip, only about 10 minutes, called Bootleggers. Bootleggers has been there since 1948. And it has been run and family owned since that time. And they probably have some of the best, not only bread, but it's an Italian restaurant. They have some of the best sauce and pasta and even steaks that I've ever had. And it's probably half the price of the Strip.
1948. When I hear Italian, I think of the mafia.
Right? I mean, this is back in you see all the pictures on the wall, and it was the Rat Pack days.
So what direction was that from
South.
the Strip?
10 minutes south of Mandalay Bay at the most.
Really? Out the Strip?
Yeah, right on the Las Vegas. Yeah, South Las Vegas Strip.
Wow. Because nothing must have been out there in 48.
No,
zero.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Wow. Mm-hmm. My dad was stationed at Nellis when he was young. And so he tells me the stories of Las Vegas and all the performers who we saw out there on pianos and different things when it was small.
Yeah.
Interesting. So anyway, thank you, Megan. We will see you on the 15th at the Town Hall Mall. It's October the 15th with Sierra Republicans. That's driven by Redmove. And we look forward to hearing you and Jim go more into detail about the future election here. It's about to come in about 40, 50 some odd days. And it should be an interesting election. I mean, a lot of our country depends on what the outcome is of this election or which direction we're going to go. Going to go up or going to go down?
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate being here, and I will look forward to the 15th.
Thank you for listening to Redmove. Please subscribe right here, right about here. And we'll see you Saturday at the Reno Town Mall.